It was an ordinary Thursday night when Sarah first noticed the strange occurrences in her new house. The suburban neighborhood of Willow Creek was known for its tranquility, a place where nothing ever went wrong until now. Sarah had moved into the quaint two-story house with her husband, Tom, and their 8-year-old daughter, Emily. They had been excited about the move, eager to start fresh in a peaceful community. The house itself was charming, with its white picket fence and well-manicured lawn. It was everything Sarah had ever dreamed of, but dreams have a way of turning into nightmares. The first sign that something was amiss came on a particularly stormy night. The wind howled outside, rattling the windows and casting eerie shadows across the walls. Sarah had been struggling with insomnia for weeks, unable to get more than a few hours of sleep each night. She blamed it on the stress of the move and the endless unpacking, but deep down, she knew something else was keeping her awake. As she lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, she heard it, a soft whisper, almost inaudible but unmistakably there. She sat up, straining her ears to catch the sound again, but all she could hear was the pounding rain. Shaking her head, she dismissed it as her imagination and tried to relax. The whispers persisted over the next few nights, growing louder and more insistent. They seemed to come from the walls themselves, a hushed chorus of voices speaking in a language Sarah couldn't understand. She tried to tell Tom about it, but he simply shrugged it off, suggesting it was just the house settling. One night, unable to stand it any longer, Sarah decided to investigate. She crept through the darkened house, the floorboards creaking beneath her feet. She followed the whispers to the basement, a place she had been avoiding since they moved in. The air grew colder as she descended the stairs, and a sense of dread settled over her. The basement was musty and dimly lit, filled with boxes they hadn't yet unpacked. The whispers grew louder, swirling around her like a sinister wind. Sarah's heart raced as she searched for the source of the noise. Her eyes fell upon an old wooden door she hadn't noticed before, tucked away in the corner of the room. Taking a deep breath, she reached for the doorknob. It was ice cold to the touch, sending a shiver down her spine. She turned it slowly, the door creaking open to reveal a small, windowless room. In the center of the room was a single, antique bed, its frame wrought iron and covered in a thick layer of dust. Sarah stepped inside, the whispers now a cacophony in her ears. She approached the bed, noticing a worn leather-bound book resting on the pillow. The cover was blank, but as she picked it up, she felt a surge of energy course through her. She opened the book, revealing pages filled with handwritten notes and drawings, all in that same unfamiliar language. Suddenly, the room grew colder and Sarah felt a presence behind her. She spun around, her breath catching in her throat. Standing in the doorway was a figure, shrouded in darkness. Its eyes glowed a sickly green, and it reached out a bony hand towards her. Sarah stumbled back, clutching the book to her chest. The figure moved closer, its whispers now a deafening roar. She backed into the bed, feeling the cold metal against her skin. With a final desperate scream, she hurled the book at the figure. There was a blinding flash of light, and the room fell silent. When Sarah opened her eyes, the figure was gone, and the room was bathed in an eerie, unnatural glow. The whispers had ceased, replaced by an overwhelming sense of calm. She looked down at the book, now lying open on the floor. The pages were blank, the words and drawings vanished. Shaken, Sarah fled the basement, slamming the door behind her. She vowed never to return, but the damage was done. That night and every night after, the whispers invaded her dreams, tormenting her with their cryptic messages. Sleep became a distant memory, replaced by a growing fear that something malevolent had been awakened in their home. Days turned into weeks and Sarah's condition worsened. She became a shell of her former self, haunted by sleepless nights and dark visions. Tom grew increasingly worried, urging her to see a doctor, but Sarah refused. She knew that no amount of medication could silence the whispers. Emily, too, began to sense that something was wrong. She would often wake up crying, insisting that there were monsters in her room. Sarah tried to comfort her, but she knew the truth: the house was no longer safe. Desperate for answers, Sarah began researching the history of their home. She discovered that the previous owners had mysteriously vanished, leaving behind all their belongings. The house had remained empty for years, shrouded in rumors and speculation. Some said it was cursed, others claimed it was haunted by the restless spirits of those who had died there. As Sarah delved deeper into the house's past, she uncovered a series of chilling events. There had been reports of strange noises, unexplained cold spots, and sightings of shadowy figures. The more she learned, the more she realized that they were not alone. Determined to put an end to the nightmare, Sarah sought the help of a local paranormal investigator, a man named Lucas. He was known for his expertise in dealing with the supernatural, and he agreed to investigate the house. Armed with an array of equipment, he set up cameras and sensors throughout the house, hoping to capture evidence of the entity that plagued them. That night, as Lucas conducted his investigation, Sarah and Tom watched anxiously from the living room. The cameras recorded everything, capturing every flicker of movement and every change in temperature. Hours passed, and just as they began to lose hope, something extraordinary happened. The cameras picked up a figure, barely visible, moving through the basement. It was the same figure Sarah had seen, its eyes glowing green in the darkness. Lucas followed the figure, his equipment recording every detail. He approached the old wooden door, the same door Sarah had discovered weeks earlier. As Lucas opened the door, the figure vanished, leaving behind a chilling silence. He stepped into the small room, his flashlight illuminating the antique bed. The book was back on the pillow, its pages once again filled with cryptic notes and drawings. Lucas examined the book, his expression growing more serious. He turned to Sarah and Tom, his voice grave. "This is no ordinary haunting," he said. "The entity in this house is powerful, and it won't rest until it gets what it wants." Sarah's heart sank. "What does it want?" Lucas hesitated before answering. "It wants to be free, and it will do whatever it takes to break free from this house." With Lucas' help, Sarah and Tom devised a plan to banish the entity from their home. Lucas explained that the book held the key to understanding the entity and how to get rid of it. They would need to perform a ritual, a dangerous and complex process that could either save them or doom them all. The night of the ritual, the house was filled with an oppressive silence. Lucas set up a circle of protection in the living room, using candles, salt, and symbols drawn from the book. Sarah and Tom stood within the circle, their hands clasped tightly together. Lucas began to chant, his voice steady and commanding. The air grew colder, and the shadows in the room seemed to come alive. The entity appeared, its eyes burning with rage. It lunged towards them, but the circle held, keeping it at bay. As the ritual progressed, the entity's attacks grew more ferocious. It slammed against the invisible barrier, its whispers turning into screams. Lucas continued to chant, his voice unwavering. The book in his hands glowed with a strange light, its pages flipping rapidly. Suddenly there was a blinding flash, and the entity let out a final, anguished wail. The room shook violently, and then, just as abruptly, everything went still. The candles flickered out, and the oppressive cold lifted. Sarah opened her eyes, her breath coming in ragged gasps. The entity was gone, the house once again silent. Lucas lowered the book, his face pale and drawn. "It's over," he said quietly. "The entity has been banished." Relief washed over Sarah and Tom, but it was tinged with exhaustion. The ordeal had taken its toll on them, and they knew it would take time to heal. Lucas stayed with them that night, ensuring that the house was truly free of the malevolent presence. In the days that followed, the whispers ceased and the house felt lighter, almost welcoming. Sarah began to sleep again, her dreams no longer plagued by dark visions. Emily's nightmares stopped, and she returned to her cheerful self. Life slowly returned to normal, but the memory of the haunting lingered. Sarah kept the book, its pages now blank, as a reminder of what they had faced. She knew that they had been lucky, and that not everyone who encountered the supernatural was as fortunate. As the weeks turned into months, the house in Willow Creek became just another home, its dark past fading into obscurity. But Sarah would never forget the terror they had endured,